Me when I'm dead and I carry a bomb around in my backpack.
I don't really want to celebrate something that was built by slaves.
Wait, so Phias, did MJ just pull a I don't like the person who made, or I don't like the people who...
Yes, yes, she did. Yes, she did. Ned is an idiot for not listening to me, I'm so serious. Ned is literally not listening when he's trying to say something, like, actually important. And Liz, bro, they're both fucking idiots. Hey, Liz, put me back on the phone with Ned. You know, Peter, you're so really wrong. Shut the fuck up, you idiots, bro.
You wanna be a high school dropout?
I am so far beyond high school right now.
You're far ahead high school, but you can't stop a van. Yeah, go fuck yourself, Peter. Peter gets dumber with every movie. Hello. In my previous viewings of Spider-Man Homecoming, I thought pretty highly of it. It wasn't on par with the Raimi trilogy or Spider-Verse, but I thought it had a solid narrative that did Spider-Man justice following a great introduction in Civil War, and it seemed that people agreed with me. This was until I saw some negative reception of it, but this didn't make me hate the movie on its own. Not until I did a rewatch with a few friends of mine and realized just how many issues it really has. And overall, I've concluded that it's a fundamentally broken story. Almost nothing about it works on a basic level. The plot sucks, the characters suck, and it's all built on inconsistent characterization. So with that said, let's talk about
good old Spider-Man.
We start with Adrian and his crew, salvaging the alien tech left over from the Battle of New York. Damage Control takes over the operation from them, despite Adrian already having a contract with the city and buying equipment for the job. He even says his house could be on the line if he doesn't make his money back. How is Damage Control legally able to avoid his contract, especially without his knowledge up until this scene? Not only should this be illegal, but it's also entirely unethical, which isn't necessarily an issue until it's revealed that the person behind this is Tony Stark. If it isn't already obvious why that's a problem, I will elaborate later. Anyway, Damage Control kicks Adrian and his crew out without the promise of compensation. Damage Control also doesn't check if they kept any of the tech and didn't hand some over. They would have the ability to do this along with S.H.I.E.L.D. This is confirmed later where it's done in the same movie. Skipping to the bank fight where Peter is messing around, one of the robbers changes the tech to death mode and Peter has to check on Mr. Delmore. Then when he turns, even though he kicked one into the glass hard enough to crack it and had one of them webbed up, they are all suddenly gone. But whatever. Now we get Peter trying to tell Happy about the weapons, and he ignores him and acts dismissive, even though he's trying to tell him about something dangerous that he encountered. This is a recurring issue in this movie. Characters constantly ignore each other or have miscommunications just so the plot can play out how the writers wanted it to. It's just really convenient writing that makes the story feel artificial, instead of a natural flow of events. Like the ferry scene, where Tony not only conveniently calls Peter while he's supposed to be in school, but the conversation makes no sense in the first place. Tony calls Peter and asks him if he has a second to talk, and when Peter says no, Tony tells him to go fuck himself and starts talking anyway.
Got a sec?
I'm actually at school.
No, you're not.
Nice work in DC.
Okay.
My dad never really gave me a lot of support, and I'm just trying to break the cycle of shame.
I'm kind of in the middle of something right now.
Don't cut me off when I'm complimenting you.
Now back to the scene with Happy. Peter then decides to change the topic to Avengers Tower when it's brought up, instead of continuing to alert Happy about the dangerous weapons that he was trying to tell him about moments before this.
Was destroyed in an explosion earlier tonight after an ATM robbery was thwarted by Queens' own colorful local crime stopper, the Spider-Man.
The bank situation is on the news, but not Tony, Happy, or anyone up in Avengers Tower is informed of this, even though it's about high-tech weapons used in a bank robbery that Peter was trying to tell Happy about, and Spider-Man is directly involved. See how it's really convenient how Happy is dismissive to Peter, because if he wasn't, the movie literally doesn't happen and nothing plays out as it does.
Okay, what the hell is that?
Did you set us up?
Hey, man.
Black Shocker is so paranoid he hears Peter's ringtone and automatically assumes they were set up, but apparently they aren't cautious enough to wear masks when making deals with random people. What if Aaron was a Fed or an undercover cop? What if one of or multiple of their clients were caught with this tech and questioned? They might crack and give a description of who sold them the weapons. This makes it easier to track down Vulture and his crew, resulting in them possibly getting caught. Tony's parachute also fucks over Peter and it's never acknowledged. For some reason, the parachute deploys while Peter is ascending higher, instead of when he's falling, which is, you know, how parachutes tend to work. Nor is this ever brought up by Peter. Instead, Peter is blamed as if the reason he fell into the lake wasn't Tony's fault. It's also very convenient how Peter comes across this piece of tech that fell out of the truck. Because if he didn't, The Washington Monument scene doesn't happen, the ferry scene doesn't happen, Peter doesn't get his suit taken, Vulture doesn't give him another chance, and half the movie is entirely different. It's also convenient that Vulture's crew somehow gets inside Peter's school. But hey, remember what I said earlier about the tech being tracked? Yeah, this is proof that this can be done. Yet S.H.I.E.L.D. and Damage Control never do this to locate missing tech. And don't fucking tell me that just because they can do it doesn't mean S.H.I.E.L.D. can. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. has access to the same tech and is just as advanced. So they should have known that there was missing tech out there. Especially because Vulture has been somehow stealing tech from the shipments for years.
Come on.
Ned can hack Stark tech, and there's no security system to warn Tony that the suit was hacked. The training wheels protocol is literally disabled, and there's no warnings that alert Tony the suit has been tampered with. Instead of Peter telling Karen to change the web shooters back to the way it was so he can swing, he instead decides to pick a random one and then tell her to choose.
Hey, Ned, listen to me!
We're at the Washington Monument now. You gotta.
Peter, is that you?
Oh, hey, Liz.
Is that Liz?
Please put Ned back on the phone.
You should tell her how you feel.
You freak! You are so lucky we won. You know, I want to be mad, but I'm more worried. Like, what is going on with you?
Liz, I have to talk to Ned. It's really important.
Miss, all items on the belt, please.
Liz, there's something in Ned's backpack. It's really dangerous. Don't let it go through an X-ray.
It's convenient that Ned not only doesn't check his voicemail, not only that he ignores him when he's trying to tell him something important, not only that Liz does the same thing and doesn't listen when he's trying to tell her to give the phone back, but also that Peter isn't upset about this afterwards, even though this risked lives because Ned couldn't listen to what he was saying. And it's also very convenient that no one bothered to look into what caused the elevator to collapse, because if they did, they would see the obvious hole in Ned's backpack. Not only does his spider sense not work, which I'll also expand on later, but somehow Black Shocker got there fast enough to sneak attack Peter and also knew what exit he would use. Great.
I see why Liz likes you. I do.
I really hope he does, cause I fucking don't. My next point is about how incompetent Peter is as a hero. This ranges from him being awful at hiding his identity to not using his abilities effectively. First, we get him making web fluid in class and proceeding to jump over the fence when school is dismissed. There could be cameras and people that capture this, and Peter should know this. He also does this later, where he works on alien tech in class. Hey, remember how he instantly grabbed his suit when Tony found it in Civil War? Tony's a public superhero and Peter is still being cautious with his identity. But for some reason, this is absent in Homecoming. This gets worse when he decides to talk to Ned about fighting Captain America right next to people that could pick up on this. Now for probably one of the more extreme examples where Peter changes with his mask off on top of a roof with a giant window right in front of him. There are also people walking around below him. All someone has to do is look out the window and up a little to see this. These aren't just random people, they were invited to Liz's party so they obviously know her. This means they could be from school and therefore could possibly recognize Peter. We also have Peter hiding his web fluid in school, which is not only inconvenient, but again, a risk to his identity. These may seem like small things, but when they add up, they make Peter look idiotic. Now we can move on to just how bad he is at doing his job. Peter takes White Shocker's gun, and instead of webbing his legs and tripping him all to the ground, or, you know, webbing him to the van, he instead decides to just run at him. You have webs, motherfucker. Use them. This Peter also seems to not have spider sense at all, because he then stops to watch as he gets hit. This is a common occurrence throughout this movie. Black Shocker and White Shocker have a tremendous amount of plot armor, and it's really inconsistent considering what we've seen him do in Civil War. Then we have another instance of nerfing, where he struggles to catch up to the van. He could do this. He could super jump onto the roof like he does with the Washington Monument later on. He could do what we see him do in Civil War, but he instead hangs onto it for an extended period of time and does nothing. During the ferry scene, he stops to watch when Karen tells him that he was 98% successful. He then takes an additional amount of time stopping to watch as the ferry collapses. Don't stop to watch, 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 don't stop to watch.
God, you're making me beat up grass!
He does this again on the side of the Washington Monument. Peter isn't just nerfed in intelligence, but he's also made physically weaker. Peter should definitely be able to lift this with what he's done in Civil War. Not only this, he says he can stop a bus with his bare hands.
But you are a kid.
Yeah, a kid who can stop a bus with his bare hands.
But he apparently can't do the same to the van from earlier. Now we move on to the Vulture, where he's consistently dumb throughout the entire movie. This is first shown with this line.
How many times have I told you not to fire him out in the open?
Up to this point, we could interpret that this is the first time, or that Vulture just didn't know about it. But this line confirms that he's done this before and Vulture knew about it. So Vulture knew about how incompetent White Shocker is, but allowed him to not only keep working for him, but also have one of the most high-risk jobs. This puts his operation and identity at risk. Then we cut to the ferry scene, where Vulture decides to have this deal on a ferry. Not only does this location have cameras, but I'm going to assume that you have to search the people that board. This would mean that he has to somehow sneak alien technology onto the ferry, and exchange it without being noticed by security or cameras. This is a horrendous location for a deal, and it's mind-blowing that he somehow hasn't been caught if he's operating like this. He also assaults someone on camera and suits up as the Vulture right after. This footage is literally enough to get him arrested. Anyone reviewing this footage would be able to tell that he's the Vulture.
Under the radar. Under the radar. That's how we survive. Under the radar. Under the radar. That's how we survive.
He's also inconsistent as a character. He specifically tells Peter he would kill him if he interferes with his business. This follows with Peter attempting to stop him from robbing the shipments. Vulture tries to kill him by dropping a building onto his head. This is confirmation that he attempted to kill Peter, so he wasn't bluffing when he said he would do so if Peter got involved. So with that context, what do you think Vulture should do after Peter stops him from completing his robbery successfully? Kill him. 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 Kill him, 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 kill him. What the fuck are you doing? Kill him! Finish the job! Kill him! Now let's talk about Tony, arguably the worst part of this entire movie. Like I mentioned earlier, Vulture's crew gets fucked over and Tony has no care to compensate them in any way. His entire arc in the first movie was about realizing the consequences of his actions. He stops making weapons for this very reason. This is why he also gets involved when the weapons being out there are brought to his attention. He knows that it's his fault and it's his job to make it right, but he apparently doesn't care the Vulture and his crew might lose their houses and be unable to put food on the table. Then he proceeds to scold Peter for not looking the other way when lives are in danger. He does this again in the ferry scene. Tony's arc in the first movie is a direct contradiction to this. He didn't look the other way and let those children die in Iron Man 1. He stepped in. Even when Tony was under the Accords in Civil War, he didn't ignore a threat when lives were at risk. He had direct restrictions on what he was able to do, but still didn't bring Ross in. He's putting stopping Zemo above the Accords because this is his moral compass. And even with that, he doesn't need to violate the Accords to put them away. He has undeniable proof that will guarantee they are. He would never do what he does in Homecoming. This movie's overall message is one of the reasons it's so awful. It's literally against the character of Spider-Man and Iron Man as well. There's also this line.
Not a word from the feds, nothing from those Halloween costume-wearing bozos up there in Stark Tower. And then all of a sudden, this little bastard in red tights shows up. Not a word from the feds, nothing from those Halloween costume-wearing bozos up there in Stark Tower.
This is already implied, but it's made more obvious by this. Vulture has somehow been stealing from Tony's shipments for years unnoticed. How the fuck was he possibly able to do this?
I don't know.
Tony apparently doesn't have any high security on the shipments. I guess this tech is so unimportant, Vulture is able to steal a portion of it with no one realizing. Tony is now aware of the weapons and how they are being made from stolen tech from his shipments following the ferry scene. But he apparently doesn't care to oversee the shipment from Avengers Tower, or even monitor it when this tech is very dangerous. Tony knows this. Now we have the scene where Tony does a complete 180 and is now proud of Peter, even though he just disobeyed him again. again. If the argument is it's because Peter did it successfully, for starters, no he didn't. He got the plane crashed that was carrying important tech and put his own life in danger. This is the exact thing Tony was upset at him for doing previously.
And if you died, I feel like that's on me. I don't need that on my conscience.
But now we need the movie to have a resolution, so let's make Tony inconsistent with how he's portrayed in this movie. He also leaves Peter's suit on the bed where anyone can walk in and open it. This includes Aunt May. Now I can enlighten you on the objectively worst character in this entire franchise.
Looking at porn.
Why would you use that excuse? That could actually get you in trouble.
So that's a crime. That's a
Yeah, what the fuck are we doing? Yeah, let me admit to a crime. Fuck you, Ned! Ignoring how Ned doesn't know how jobs work, he's overall a moron for the sake of jokes. Not only this, but he has no care for Peter's secret identity, even though it should be fucking obvious that Peter's job is dangerous.
What are you talking about? It's not Ned's fault that he's dumb and doesn't know how dangerous being a superhero is.
Firstly, that's wrong. Peter tells him this to his face.
You know what she's like. If she finds out people try and kill me every single night, she's not gonna let me do this anymore.
Secondly, he says this in the following scene.
Could have died.
But despite this, he still talks about Spider-Man stuff in class. He literally blurts out that Peter has a connection to him for no reason. He puts Peter's identity more at risk just so he can be popular at fucking high school. Ned actually pulls an MJ from Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. There's also this line.
Look, I'm just gonna be myself.
Peter, no one wants that.
By the end of this, you probably either think I hate everything or actually agree with the criticisms made. Which if it's the former, then...
You're a fucking ugly bitch. I want to stab you to death and then play around with your blood.
With that said, I would like to thank SK for the recording of the watch party that was used, and also give a special thanks to my friend Jay for helping me in the making of this video. He helped me elaborate on and construct some points made, and he's one of the reasons this video is the way it is. With that said, Homecoming is a disaster with little redeeming qualities, and I hope Brand New Day isn't as bad as this. Goodbye.